Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mike Armstrong podcast show. And this afternoon, I'm joined by Angela Durrant, who's from basically an executive speaking communications coaching business. And we're going to have a little chat about business, speaking, networking, and all those sort of things. How are you doing today, Angela? You okay?
I'm really well, Mike. Thanks very much.
Brilliant, brilliant. And thanks for coming on to the podcast with me.
It's my pleasure. Really looking forward to the conversation.
Yes, brilliant, brilliant. And we've met obviously through networking a number of times in and around the Cardiff and Wales area, and more recently we connected again online through somebody I was actually inviting on my podcast, and he thought it would be good for you to come on the podcast, being local to me, and also being featured in his book. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about that, how that happened?
Yes, yeah. Isn't it interesting? We live in the same town, as it were, in Cardiff, and then we end up connecting online, and that's the way everything's going, isn't it, really? But yes, his name is Matthew Pollard. Matthew is one of the top 50 sales trainers in the States, and I met Matthew quite a while back and took his Rapid Growth Academy, and it was a fantastic sales system at a time when I was starting a new venture called Maverick Communication. And I really wanted rapid growth, so it was a brilliant title. And I took his training course in his academy, and within probably, I don't know, as probably little as sort of 6 weeks, I virtually doubled my income. It was really fantastic, and I just dived straight in. From that point on, I was a real great fan of his work. He works with introverts, etc., and small businesses to really set up a good sales system, and that was really important to me. And the reason I'm in his book, he's got a new book out, I think it's The Introvert's Edge to Networking, and he was encouraging me, he was trying desperately to encourage me to go online quicker than I was, but I was doing so well with some of my offline networking that it took a crisis in our household last September, when my husband had a sudden heart failure, to launch me online and sort of pivot before everybody else had pivoted due to the current situation. And I was forced within about, less than 24 hours to take my entire business online. And through understanding how to do that and the system that I'd created, I was able to start that process of taking things online. And since then, Matthew's asked me to become one of his mentors for his Rapid Growth Academy. And so I'll be able to lead people through his system as well as my own as well.
Oh yeah, that's fantastic. It sounds to me that Matthew's doing a very similar sort of job to myself. So obviously that's probably why I come across him. I come across it through a mutual connection of mine, David Davis, I think, and I think because David Davis was talking about a book, I can't remember. I think it might be Matthew's book launch, etc. And so I sort of checked him out, and then I thought he'd be a good guest on the podcast. And in the end, he ended up saying that it'd be good for you to come on the podcast. So, but yeah. I've been spending 8 years trying to get people to do what you've done, if you like, and that's utilize the internet and technology. And then obviously Matthew done it with you a bit earlier, ahead of the game, which was perfect for you. You were well positioned for when this crisis hit. But to be honest with you, coronavirus, has been like the best salesperson I could ever have employed, because my job was to get entrepreneurs kicking and screaming into the internet, and COVID just did it overnight, more or less. Within about 3 weeks, everyone was doing what they needed to be doing. So yeah, how did you find that with everyone else competing with you, when all of us, for a while, you had a bit of a gap to yourself, didn't you, for a bit?
Yeah, I think here's what I have seen so far. I think visibility without an intentional plan behind it, or without it takes more than visibility alone to make an impact in your and it is noisier now. I had been online previously. I started off as a voice coach in the music industry over 10 years ago, and sort of transitioned to work with more businesses and public speaking and presentations and around sort of visibility and presenting and video, etc., in the last sort of 18 to 20 months. But because I had a system, and because I understood where my clients were, the nature of my business, it was actually easier to reach out initially to people to try those first beta tested ideas and courses to go online. I think with COVID, the scramble for everybody to go online, interestingly enough, I actually stepped back just for a couple of weeks, etc., when everybody had first gone online, because there was such a scramble, because everybody had to go on Zoom or Team or whatever it was that they were doing. And I knew that what would actually happen to me, I felt it would be a bit like a party popper. Most people would go online, take a big flurry of activity, and then it would start to drip off because the results wouldn't be there for people. And the most important thing is to actually have a plan for your visibility, a plan for how you're going to take your material online, and actually create almost like a suite of assets and the ability to do it in various forms, which is why when I first had to go online, and it was due to, I don't think, I know that we're blaming COVID at the moment, but my husband had cancer, and sometimes there's another type of crisis that comes into the situation, isn't it? And whenever there's a business crisis, we're looking to blame the situation. And I did a survey at the start of our current situation with several service-based professionals that suddenly were sort of didn't know what to do, and the overwhelming thing that people came out with was, they wanted more clients. They wondered why all of this had even happened. It's not fair, kind of thing. And how on earth do I deal with all the marketing and the noise around it when I want to go kind of hide under a rock, really? And when I looked back and I stepped back and I thought, well, I'm supposed to be doing a webinar on visibility. There's quite a few questions to answer there, really. And the biggest thing that came out to me was, it was kind of business model behind the scenes of it. When times are good, we tend to, as we are told to do what works. And if we're only ever doing what works offline, then we're not only leaving money on the table, but we're actually kind of building our businesses for kind of times of peace, not times of war. And if you're a service-based professional without a team of people around you, you've got to be able to create, I think, multiple eggs in your basket around your skill set in order to have a business that can ride different situations and cash flows and income bases. And there's no getting away that the internet is, it's been around a good while now. It's just that I don't think we are used to the fact how intentional we need to be and how much of a strategy we have to have. And even clearer, for me personally, one of the things that made the biggest difference to me, both in Matthew's system and in going online, was I really knew who my clients were. I really knew what their problems were. I really knew and I knew how to communicate with them. And I knew how to steer those conversations round to sales. And without those skills, what I see with people is a real lot of kind of flailing around and without an intentional outcome for themselves. So they'll try a course, or they'll try some posting or some content. And if it doesn't have any level of intentionality around it, they're not going to get the results that they're capable of getting. And that's what I have noticed, really. So for me, it's more about a path of intentionality than it is just about going online, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, there are a lot of people still who are worried about speaking in front of a camera or speaking on audio and all that sort of thing. So what you do, teaching people how to do that and be comfortable with that is key. Not everyone is as, I suppose, bullshy as me, or comfortable outside the comfort zone, if you like, because I wasn't that confident in speaking and audio, but I decided, well, the best way of becoming confident was actually to set up a podcast and just do it every day. So I actually set up a podcast, and within like a couple of days, really, I was comfortable, because, being comfortable doing something new doesn't take long for many people. I'm one person who I'm quite, I get it home quite quickly. And also I was doing quite a lot of episodes. So, if you want to become comfortable at something you're not comfortable at, do it a lot and you'll become comfortable. That's always my sort of strategy. And
it is true, but not everybody's like you, Mike.
No, I know. No, and thank God they're not, because there's more people need some coaching. I'm very independent, and if I decide I'm going to do something, I just do it, but a lot of people do need some coaching and help doing that, Yeah,
and it really does depend, I think, for some people, dependent on how they've been. Some people are very confident live, for instance. They really feed off an audience. They have trained, they've enjoyed that interaction with a live audience, but they had more sort of limiting beliefs or issues about how to show up on camera and how to do video. I'm speaking to somebody at the moment who is wanting to sort of take his business online and create videos and content for that. But sometimes people not even just going live, because that's a bit like sort of live TV presenting, if you stick your Facebook live or something. And many people are just, they haven't had a lot of experience in actually physically going in front of the camera. So on one thing, you're doing a podcast, so we're hearing our voices only, which is a big deal, because 88% of why we actually trust somebody is in the tone of the voice. And if we're seeing somebody, 55% is our body language, 38% is the tone of voice, and the words we speak are just 7%. So our unconscious communication styles and skills are actually either turning people off or turning people on us. And sometimes we're very unaware of those, what I call those hidden motivators, as to why we're actually getting some better results than others, or others are not getting the results that they could potentially be getting. It's not always your content. Sometimes it is the delivery, and we don't like to work on that sometimes, because, you know, we'll try and do some more tactics rather than actually work on the thing that's going to move the needle another 1% here and there, just the way that we show up with people. I think when you look at video views, and they're looking now, say if you've had more than 10 seconds on your video view, they class that as an engagement. Well, if you were sat in a live room with somebody and somebody was actually public speaking, you'd probably not be rude enough to walk out of the door. But we're on an online world, so people can scroll past your video or your live, you know, within the space of 10 seconds, which is why anything past that is seen as engagement, because it takes anything up to 3 to 7 seconds to establish that initial bit of interest, that initial bit of trust with somebody, so that they will continue to watch us more. So those things are very much, for me, a bit like stagecraft. You know, when a performer walks onto the stage, they're engaging, they're ready, they're prepared, and the audience is waiting for the first thing that performer's going to do. Comedians are the best at this, aren't they? They've got pretty much about 10 seconds to get that audience on their side. If not, it could be a really bad affair. So I don't see video and the way that we're doing video online, I don't see that as any different than the skills that a comedian and a good performer has to learn.
Yeah, definitely. I know it was, I was one of those people, I suppose the reason I was able to just go and do it quite quickly is, one, I've been blogging for 15 years, which helps massively with podcasting. Yeah, so I'm always tried and tested. I knew what to talk about, if you like, because I've been typing about it. So it's the same stuff that I talk about now that I used to blog about, you know, just updated a bit and whatever, like, you know. But the other thing as well is I've been in sales all my life, so I'm used to talking. So for me, I don't understand why it took me so long to find podcasting, because I much preferred it than blogging, because I prefer to speak than to type. You know, yes. But what I found difficult with videos is, because I'm used to talking to people and bouncing off people, that, you know, when you're holding a video, etc., it's quite difficult to get, you know, your personality across, etc. That's what I found early on. You know, they were quite flat, a bit wooden. You know, none of that interaction. You're just sort of talking to a phone, if you like, you know, to a static thing. And that, you know, so there's things like that. I think that take a bit of time and, again, experience. You know,
it is true. I think the same with video is, you know, when I had a singing career and I had to go into the room to practice, I had to practice that performance before I was ever in front of a live audience. And that ability to visualize an audience in front of me, that ability to almost practice your own performance ahead of time. We expect it of musicians and of performers, but we don't think of doing it for ourselves, for speaking or for video. We just kind of avoid it and try another route to get to the result that we want in business. I've been more than amazed, and not in a, you know, not in a judgmental way, but just really quite amazed at how many people will try to do things in a very non-effective way when video, anything that we show up for video, etc., for people, is going to make such a difference to your business, to the way that you communicate. And people are probably as afraid of video, I think, as they are. I think maybe because there's so many people doing what I call lifestyle videos out there, overly polished, sort of really set up and staged, or thinking of it like a YouTube video or something. But the majority of things are quite easy to do for your business, that will give people a real sense of what your values are, what your business is about. And actually people are looking for real, and they're looking for authentic, and I think if you want to do something, it's best to start. It's absolutely best to start. And if you know that you want some additional skills with that, then it's not difficult to attain them. So obviously I can help people. There's other people that are online to help people as well. But just for people to know that depending on the type of industry, if you haven't come from sales, if you've come from a more sort of engineering or financial or accounting sort of background, or you're more classed as an introverted expert, as it were, in your own mind, you can still make a big difference to your own visibility, and actually people will thank you more for it as well.
Yeah, definitely. I got a little tip as well, which I can share with you, and it would be probably quite useful for your clients. And that is to get people to go onto Zoom or whenever they can go on and record a video, of themselves selling themselves to themselves. So actually building up their own confidence and self-esteem, and they can actually start off with a video selling themselves to themselves, and then actually that probably won't be very good, and then film a better one selling more of themselves to themselves, and hitting more of the features and benefits, and the passion and the enthusiasm and the persuasiveness, etc. And then just keep up in that until they've got a real an awesome video that they're happy to sell themselves to themselves too. Not only are they perfecting the art of speaking and getting in passion and enthusiasm and tonality and all that sort of stuff, but they're also at the same time listening to themselves, assessing themselves, selling to themselves all the good things about themselves. It's like a win-win-win. It's a great part of the process.
Feel that confident. If people do, so many people don't feel that confident, to do that. If people don't feel that confident, and many people don't, because as soon as they start to do that, they look back with self-judgment, or they go, I haven't got the message right, etc. And there's a truth to that. If you don't know who your clients are, if you don't know what it is that you're selling really, because many service-based individuals are not just selling one skill set to people, they do many things for a client. So to be able to articulate that, to me, it's a bit like cake baking. It is no good sticking the sprinkles on the top if you haven't got the cake already baked on the inside. So if you know that your message isn't really solid, and again, you can find that out, because if you start to press go, or you get tongue-tied, then you haven't really articulated it. And just to help people, one of the best ways to actually create a really nice, easy, authentic way to sell, and feel quite soft around that as well for some people that don't feel comfortable, is selling through stories. It's one of the things that Matthew teaches in his academy, is particularly for introverts, is to actually use stories and use the testimonials and the stories of the clients and the people that you've helped, and to really use those as examples in the selling process, and particularly when you're on video, or if you're crafting a message, because there's a reason why Hollywood is so big. It still sells. Stories still sell. People want to identify with other people that you have created results for and helped. And when they do that, when we're not talking about ourselves, because people are not buying us, they're buying the results that we can help them provide in a vehicle or a format that works and makes sense to them. So the most important thing is to actually, for me, to hold up and identify people that you've worked with, that you can actually do those things with. I mean, I had a client, he actually came to me and he said, I want you to do for me what you've just done for this other client, because people are watching how we work with others, the results that we gain for others. They are really not interested in us. They are really not interested in our process. They just trust that we have a process. We have a boat to get them from A to B. And if we can prove that level of ability through our communication, through our messaging, and then add that messaging into different formats like videoing and podcasting and other forms of speaking like this, coming on other people's podcasts or blog, you can take that same message on many formats, and people will see it, and they'll start to see you as an expert for what you do.
Yes, definitely. I think, I've been in sales for 30 years, so storytelling is always the best way to inform others, if you like, of what you've already done before, and to demonstrate, you don't need to sell features and benefits. You can just tell a story about how somebody has benefited, and they don't care so much about the features, but they'll understand in the story the benefits that, whatever the features you use to give those benefits to the client. All they're interested in generally is the end of the story and what the effect was, if you like.
Yeah, it's like they used to say, don't tell me about the delivery, show me the baby.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yes, so you've obviously embraced quite a bit of change then in the last year, etc. Obviously, you teach speaking and that. What's your plans? Are you doing any speaking? You doing much, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I love speaking. I'm actually speaking on the 8th of September for an incredible entrepreneurs global summit. Her name is Carmelita Nuttall, and I think she's a great friend of Introbiz and some other people.
Yes, I know Carmelita. Yeah, I know.
She's a force of nature, is Carmelita. I absolutely adore her, and I love her story, and I think people love her because they really identify with somebody that has brought themselves up, worked really hard to to sort of have the brand and the ability that she's got. So I'm speaking around visibility and what it takes to be the person that other people pay attention to on her global summit on the 8th of September at 5 p.m. UK time. So I'll be doing an interview, speaking with her, at the same time launching the Visible Club, which I actually launched in lockdown. When I think a lot of people have reflected in lockdown, haven't they, Mike? When they sat down and they thought, oh my God, this isn't going away, it's different, what are we going to do? One of the things that I recognised was that, particularly around visibility, there was several self-employed people, service-based professionals that really didn't know how to raise their profile within the marketplace and to be, I always say, is you don't need to be visible to everybody. You need to be visible to the customers and the potential clients that you need to be visible to, and you need a plan then in order to actually be, remarkably visible to them. So I started the Visible Club as a founding membership. The idea behind is that, that they could get that support, and you said earlier about, getting in front of the camera and being able to sort of sell yourself. Well, this is a safe space where people can actually do that. It's a safe space where people can meet together. We have accountability, goal setting. We have guest experts coming in every single month on everything from sales platforms to Facebook marketing to how to sell to corporate clients to mindset, etc. And I wanted to create an environment for people where they didn't have to feel as if they were scattered, and they didn't feel as if they had to try and hustle all the time, but they could have a space where there was bite-sized business bits of training where they could ask the questions that they needed, get support, get help. We've got at the moment 20 founding members, and we're due to launch in September for the Visible Club. So thank you for being able to sort of say about that, because it's been a real passion of mine, watching people through the year, watching self-employed people, seeing some of them struggle. I wanted to be able to create something that was a space for people that were either coming out of corporate and starting up their own businesses, or wanted to raise their profile to be able to do that in an easy way.
Yeah, brilliant. And that event that you spoke about, I know Tracy's speaking of that as well, and also Emma Cooksley-Lewis is speaking of it as well, isn't she?
Yeah.
Do you know Emma?
I don't know Emma. I know Tracy very well, so it'll be really lovely to sit in and listen to everybody as well, which I will be doing. So I've 2 days are out my diary. It's the 8th and 9th of September. Yeah, I'm on the 8th at 5 o'clock. So hopefully just before everybody has their dinner, they'll dive in and listen to how they can raise their profile.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely something I'll probably dip in and out of myself, because I'm busy doing podcasts and Zooms and global networking and all of that. But I'll probably try and catch it a bit. It depends. Is it weekend or is it weekdays?
September the 8th. I'm not entirely sure. Let me just double check. It is September the 8th. Is a Tuesday and a Wednesday, and I'll be on the Tuesday.
Oh, there we are then, yeah, because I know there was a Sharon Lecter global event. There seems to be a lot of these global events happening now. I think all the real world events have obviously dried up, and it's been a 6 months barren spell, and then all of a sudden, I think all the events online were always going to come, but I think people were like, oh, we don't want to do it in July, we don't want to do it in August. So then all of a sudden, September, bang, just the same as in the real world, the events just kick off in September, October, November. And, I think there's going to be a lot to come. I'm looking forward to them because I love those big sort of, couple of days events and stuff.
Yeah, it's convenience for people, isn't it? It's really convenient for people to do things online. I don't think, I think it'll take a time for offline to come back in. I think we do want to connect with people offline. I know that will come back in. But I think for time, money and effort, online is certainly the new way to, to experience things.
Yeah, and I think people do want to do the offline as well, but I think actually there's going to be a percentage lost forever to the offline world now. I think there will be a percentage who just like the efficiency and that's it, done. You know what I mean? I myself will probably still mix it up a bit, but I'm definitely going to still do a lot more online than offline. So I myself, as a big offline networker, probably will never do as much offline network as I've ever done previously. I'll always do the big business expos and that sort of thing where you can see a lot of people in one day because that's efficient. But the actual, losing 4 or 5 hours to do a 2-hour event when you could just do a 2-hour event and whatever, to me that's probably changed forever now. And also, I was massively networking around the UK before lockdown, after massively networking in Wales for about sort of the last 8 years, but probably UK the last 2 years. But since lockdown, I've been doing a lot of international networking, global, because I'm on a mission to become a global speaker, and I want my podcast I want to connect with people around the world, and I want my podcast and all my content to be listened to by people around the world and not just in Wales or the UK. So again, you can't do that offline. So I think there's a lot of online global networkers now who are just, that's where their space is, and they're going to stay there forever.
It's a really good way to build your brand, yeah.
Well, exactly. As the other thing as well is that on the planet, in the globe, there's a lot more people that are in your niche, if you like, than there are in a small geographical area, depending on what your niche is, etc. But so it can be quite easy to build a tribe globally, easier than building one locally,
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of the traps that I got caught in, which is why I ended up in Matthew's book. Was it's so easy once you kind of get on a roll in one area or in one thing, particularly as it was offline at the mill, or a local sort of series, or even just the same networking, as it were. It's really easy to just keep doing the same thing. Yet one of the really important things that Matthew taught me was to really network where your clients are going to be, and to actually go outside of where you normally think you would want to go in order to communicate and speak. And part of what was really important to me getting off the ground sort of 20 months ago was the ability to have what Matthew calls a unified message. And a unified message is where you really have got a kind of congruent, a congruent way to describe what you do. So for me, it was very much around sort of impact strategy. And so it was easy to say to people, I create an impact for people, a strategy for people to make a bigger impact. Well, that got me straight off the ground, because people said, well, what does that mean? And it was really able to have those conversations where I'm able to then now sit down with somebody, look at their whole kind of messaging with them, particularly the higher end clients, and put that all into a strategy for their visibility. And you can take the same core skills then in several different markets and several different environments. And I think service-based professionals have to really think about all of the areas and all of the places they could leverage their own visibility these days. Sometimes it's their own podcasts, sometimes it's their own video courses, or the fact that they can work in several different markets if they just tweak the message slightly and then look at how they are networking in those and how they're communicating, and whether that communication is actually bringing in those conversations or not. Sometimes there's a reluctance to admit the truth, Mike. Sometimes there's a reluctance in people, isn't there, to go, I'm actually not getting the results from here. And is it that I'm in the wrong place? Am I speaking to the wrong people? Or actually, do I need to work on my messaging and my delivery, and actually what I'm actually getting out from this. And I think if somebody's prepared to just face up to a little bit of truth and less of their own kind of personal bullshit sometimes, then I think we can make some great strides, even in this environment. You know, I know that people are talking about recessions and the challenges, but so many new things have been started in recessions, haven't they? Yeah. So many new businesses. I think opportunity is still there for people if they've got, you know, if they can get their brain outside the box, as it were, and start to think a little bit wider than where they were before.
Well, I used to work with people with their sales and marketing, which is the visibility, really. Same thing that you're doing. I used to do the same sort of thing, really. Communication, sales, marketing, business growth, whatever. But actually, during the lockdown, I've come up with a 7-step success formula. So working on all areas of success, which I consider to be important. So I call it streams, which is stream success formula. And it covers systems, technology, relationships, efficiency, action, marketing, and sales. You know, I think marketing and sales are a bedrock of success.
They are.
You know.
Yeah, that's why I brought in Matthew's system, to be fair, because I don't class myself as a sales or a marketing trainer as such. I mean, I'm firmly sat on when I'm talking about visibility for people, there is a sales and a marketing section to that, and it's absolutely vital. But I've seen people try and put the tactics in place, but they haven't really shown up with the believability and the ability and their presence as how they're showing up. So the majority of my one-to-one clients or people in the Visible Club are just as interested in that vocal confidence, that presence, the ability to kind of speak their own truth, to stand out, to have a complete, unique selling point message, as it were, and the ability to understand how to engage an audience still. You know, I still get people like, how do you get the wow factor? How do you really engage people? And that's really, for me, that's firmly where I sit on things. I love being a mentor for Matthew's system because I can combine it with all of the other aspects of how to communicate that make the difference. So having that sales piece on the end is the icing on the cake, because once you can actually communicate and then sell the thing that you are so different for, it makes all the difference. But I think if all we're doing is, you know, people fear that if they just push sales on people, so they're hiding their light under a bush. But if you can get that light out, if you can communicate it, if you've got your, you know, how you say what you say and how you mean what you say, and the tone of voice and the way that we read you, we're filtering all of the time. There's a brilliant quote by an acting coach called Patsy Rodenberg, and she said, as you enter the room, before you even begin speaking, people have already decided whether to lend you their ears or give you their respect. And that is so true. I used to start every senior leadership training event or anything that I was doing with that quote, because I'd just leave a little bit of space in the room and people would get very quiet, and then they would start to nod and they would go, oh, that's true. We know that we're judging. We know that we don't mean to be judging, but we're filtering all the time as to who to pay attention to. And so what we want to do, and what I suppose my mission with everything that I do, is to help people be that person right from the get-go that people are wanting to respect, that people are wanting to pay attention to, and that they have not only the gravitas to actually do that, but the content then to actually back it up with. And then I can, you know, bringing in things like the sales skills and the marketing, they are the form that we get that out to the world. But we've got to decide what exactly we are getting out to the world beforehand. Otherwise, we're just, you know, throwing mud at the walls and hoping some of it sticks.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the other thing which people need to work on as well, especially in the UK, which they don't have the problem in America, but we have it in the UK, from a marketing point of view, is that most people don't want to cross the line. So therefore, they're not willing to go anywhere near it. So they stay too far away from the line, which is why they don't do enough sales and marketing, you know, because they're too polite and they don't want to upset people. So they'd rather but to me, you know, good successful sales and marketing is operating right on the line. You know, it's operating on the line you need to be at to get your message out there to as many people as possible, because it's a numbers game, and the more people who do get to know your message and know you and what you stand for, the more people you have a chance of doing some business with. But a lot of people are so for example, there'll be people who will only post say once a day on social media because they think, oh, I don't want to upset anybody, but actually there's people out there, posting 20 times a day on social media as well. But because it's all, doesn't matter how often you post, it all depends on the value you're delivering, and etc. So, if you're delivering lots of value, then you can post much more regular. And if you're, if you're just trying to sell to people all the time, which you should never be doing anyway on social media, but then you wouldn't want to do that too many times because you're going to upset people. So it's about understanding, what you're doing. And I think people are too polite, or they're doing something they don't 100% believe in, because if you've got something out there that you believe in, then you'll talk about it to everybody as often as you can, because ultimately you've got something of interest and benefit to them. So why wouldn't you tell them about it? But so I think there's two areas there which are all sort of mental problems, if you like. They're problems in the brain.
Don't tell them that, Mike.
No, but they're mental, as in they're psychological problems. They're belief in the product and themselves and what they're doing, which is massive. But then also dropping that reservedness and that politeness and whatever, and actually saying, I'm not on this planet to be reserved and polite. I'm on this planet to share my message with as many people as I can, because I believe 100% in it, and therefore having the right strategies and the right proposition of giving value to the audience to be able to pick up the pace and actually get to the levels you need to get to grow a business.
Yeah, and you know what? I think it's so important to say that it doesn't matter where you sit on the personality styles here. You can actually sit on, the more extrovert or the more introvert personality, and with the right strategy for you and for your business and for your clients, and with a little bit of skill behind the scenes, you can actually make a big difference to those people. You don't have to. I think some people think they have to be completely the opposite to who they want to be in order to get their message out there. And I'm here to say that is not true at all. You can be of every personality type. What you have to be is, as you said, you can't convince another human being of something that you are not convinced of. Number one. You said before, you can't sell them something they actually don't want. Number two, we've got to get that one in there. We've got to know what isn't that? It's like the simplicity behind it is so profound sometimes. I think we forget it. We just add more and more tactics, and we forget there's some simple truths. We've got to be convinced. There's something very engaging and sort of charismatic about watching people that are full of passion for what they do. When we are full of passion for what we do, there's a magnetism to that, a genuine magnetism. I'm not talking about sort of false enthusiasm. I'm talking about a genuine passion for something. It's very, very engaging. The second thing is that if we ask people what they want and we give it to them, and we find ways of actually delivering that to them, or getting, that marketing is asking people what they want, and sales is being able to deliver that, to them and get a yes from it. It's not, there are complexities around that in terms of how do we find out what people want, or how do we get into that. But that's where an intentional plan comes in for each one of us, rather than just mud at the walls, isn't it? That's where the plan comes in. And the biggest thing is that I see it all the time on social media when people put out, oh, this is my first talk or my first video, and people go, you're going to be great, just be yourself. And that's both very, very true and completely useless at the same time. And I'll tell you why. It's incredibly true, because you can't be anybody else other than yourself. But if you think yourself is boring or uninteresting or has got nothing to say, or you're caught up in your own thinking, well, then you're going to think that you've got to be everybody else other than yourself at all. So being yourself is absolutely the right thing to do. However, what I would add to that is, the reason why it's completely useless when people tell that to you is because you and I both know that sometimes being our best self needs a bit of work.
Yeah.
And being our best self
just took the words. Yeah, you took the words out of me. You took the words out of me. It's not about being yourself, but it's about being the best yourself that you could be in every situation that you're in, really.
It's being your best self. And for people that are not used to speaking on stage, or being on a video, or being on a podcast, or interviewing or being interviewed, or doing those sort of content things, or those more visible things, that's no different than somebody, if they had to go sing a song on the stage, they'd have to go practice, they'd have to go learn it, they'd have to know what they were trying to achieve by it, they'd have to get some level of control over their own nerves and their own mental focus to be able to do a really good job of that. None of that is really challenging to do, and it's all skills that every single person can learn rather than avoid to do. So I kind of say, yeah, absolutely be your best self, but kind of like take the challenge of being your best self at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's a bit like when I teach young salespeople, I would tell them never go to an appointment without a book and a pad. Like, yeah. Whereas like I've been doing that for so long, I've trained my brain to remember all the important details because I got to send a proposal. Yeah, that I used to write all the notes and then never look at the pad, and then I was like, well, why am I taking the pad and the pen? Because I'll ask the question, they'll give me the answer. I'll regurgitate the answer back to them and say, so is this the stuff that you definitely cared about? And then before I'm going to walk away, I'm just going to say, just to confirm, the proposal I'm giving you is on, the stuff that you talked about. Yeah, is there anything I've missed? No, brilliant. And then by the time you've gone through that process, it's in your head anyway, so you don't need to, have the pen and pad. But
And
in order to get to one stage, you've got to go through the previous stage first, haven't you?
Yeah, that's what you said. You many people find they've got a process work that works for them, or people fall into a process, and other people just get really caught in the weeds. They either avoid sales, or they avoid visibility, or they avoid speaking, or, as I recently did a survey, now this is quite interesting because I just think sometimes we're full of our own self-delusion, right? Delusions of grandeur that we all fall into. I did a survey and I asked people how comfortable or confident they were at different levels of public speaking, or of speaking on video or lives or exit. And then I asked them what was their most frustrating thing about being in their business right now. But the two answers didn't corroborate, Mike. So in other words, people were telling they needed clients, or they needed a pipeline, or they needed sales, or they were struggling here, there and everywhere. And yet they were giving themselves and rating themselves an 8 to a 10 out of 10 in their confidence to communicate and do public speaking. And I thought, well, there can't be a truth to that. We've got to be deluding ourselves. If our results, our actual results, are not there, then we are missing something in the communication equation here. We're either missing the ability to handle proper sales calls, we're missing the ability to get our message across, we're missing that piece in the marketing of how we communicate, and maybe the process that we do that through. But it's no good deluding ourselves and saying that we're brilliant at this and we're brilliant at that because we've got a bit of confidence about it if the results are not showing up. Because I think good is the enemy of the best here, isn't it? Good is the enemy of great. If we want to be great, we've got to go past good. And if we're okay at this stuff but we're still not getting the results we want from it, then there's somewhere else to reach to, I think.
Yeah, well, this is where my sort of sales, marketing, business, and other sort of advice and consultancy comes in, because a lot of the time, like you said, people are doing stuff and they're not getting the results, but a lot of the time they're looking at the end product and thinking, well, this video is good, or I'm good. And sometimes it could be, sometimes it may not be, sometimes the message is whatever. But often this goes down to actual business, but often they go down and their business isn't that great, so they haven't actually got a great business opportunity. They haven't got a great market. It's very competitive, etc. So again, sometimes they've got to sort of really take it back to basics and go, okay, and what I'm communicating about, is it, something that people want? Is it competitively priced? Because there are people out there who just pluck pricing from the air, and they think, they don't even know why they've got the price. And they've looked at a few other people and go, oh, that seems to be the price. And then they come up with the price. Sometimes there are people in business who aren't making money at that price because they're losing money because, they've gone on just copy someone else's price and they got a lower cost base, or whatever it may be. So I think, that's where you've got to sometimes really get into business. Sometimes people, they market stuff for a long time. They go, well, it's not working. And, my marketing's not working, when the marketing may be, fine. It's just you may be in a saturated market full of a million other people who are saying the same messages, and your conversion rates are atrocious because of just the quantity of people in it. And I think that's something which is got to be considered as well by people. So
that's why you can't sell your skills. That's why you can't just sell what you do. It's not that you can't sell what you do. Nobody's interested in what you or I do. What they're interested in is, what we have to do is we have to go behind we have to look at the both internal and the external motivators. We have to look at how what we do really does add value in several different spheres to somebody's life or business. And we have to be able to turn that into a message and talks and opportunities to share that value in a way. That's why they call it the USP, and people don't quite know, not still, how to really, they either kind of postulate that USP, or they can't really kind of create that USP in a way that people see them as the go-to person. Really, you know, no matter what the market is, you know, there's the go-to person. And so I understood, even when I had to train 10 years ago as a voice coach, and I had to train with other voice teachers in the same room, I sat down one day and I thought, it doesn't matter if there are 10 of us in here, we could all have a unique and a different market and a different business. If we understand what business we're actually in and who are our best and ideal clients, and if we learn to communicate really well to those type of clients, and that we put all our energies and our efforts to being visible and to being seen by those type of people, so that we can be almost the drink of water in a thirsty desert to that type of client base. And then we don't have to be global in terms of being everywhere. We can actually be quite a big fish in a small pond and still have a really, really good business. And if somebody wants to be global, fantastic, but let's, you know, start with something rather than trying to spray our energy around everywhere. Let's start with getting really, really clear on where we do our best work, who we do our best work with, what levels of visibility that we need to embrace to be visible to those type of clients. If they're not on Pinterest and you're trying to spend 3 hours a day on Pinterest, it's a pointless operation. Let's go and learn the skills, so that, because your best self will thank you for it. When you've stretched yourself out your comfort zone, when people have just, you know, got those videos out, put those courses out, seen money coming into the bank in different forms, not just the way it used to be 5 or 6 months ago, they will realize that they're far more capable of doing things than they ever thought they could be. And that's the business I realized I was in well over sort of 5 or 6 years ago. When I really looked down to it, I was in the business of confidence. I was in the business of helping people see more of who they really were, and to help guide them to create the skills and the strategies and the plans and the accountability to help them get their dreams and their abilities out of their head into the world, and do that in a way that other people went, wow, you've done that really, really well. And I got really clear that that was the business that I was in, and the forms of it are going to change, you know, and the products and the programs, but we kind of all have to get really clear on what business we're actually in, and then just settle down and get on with it, I think.
Yes, definitely. So how do people get in touch with you if they want to settle down and get on with it, you know, in a coaching process with you? And also what courses and stuff have you got for sale at the moment?
Yeah, well, if they at this moment in time, we're just about to launch the Visible Club membership. So if they hang on to this website name, they will be able to use it very soon, which will be thevisibleclub.com, and you'll be able to use that from September. In the meantime, you can reach me at www.maverickcommunication.co.uk, and I love reading people's personal emails, which is Angela Durrant. Oh, hang on a minute. No, that's the wrong email address. Let me just get the right email address for you. Angela@maverickcommunication.co.uk. That will be the easiest one for people to reach me to at the moment. And I love reading people's personal emails. If there's anything that's spoken to them in this at all, or they want to ask a question, I love to hear from people.
Okay. And which is your preferred social media portal of choice?
I'm a bit of a LinkedIn lovey at the moment. I'm loving a bit of LinkedIn. I'm loving the conversation on there, but I'll be both on LinkedIn and Facebook.
Yeah, I'm loving LinkedIn as well at the moment. So I used LinkedIn such a long time ago, and for such a long time, for like 10 years. The first 10 years it existed, I used it all the time. And I sort of, as I left employment, I went into self-employment and started doing sales and marketing consultancy and digital marketing agency and all of that. I started playing around with all the new toys, if you like, and I loved those new toys. Podcasting and YouTube are new toys for me. But before that, it was Twitter, then Facebook, and Insta, and Pinterest, and blogging, and all of those sort of things. But actually now, I think since the lockdown, because all the sales people who were out in the real world and all the business owners who were out in the real world are all now on LinkedIn as the primary platform. So for me, it's like LinkedIn is like the new toy, because LinkedIn is different than what it's always been before, because now it's like the ocean rather than a pond, but it's full of fish constantly being active.
Well, I think there's great conversation on there, and I think that's what I love. Is I love listening to people's great conversation, be that on a video, be that on a blog post, be that in their physical speaking. We're all conversing with an audience in one form or another, and I love that conversation that I'm listening to at the moment.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, then we'll connect on LinkedIn, because I do a lot of liking and commenting and resharing. I share a lot of Welsh business news on out of the people's personal posts into my Welsh Biz page. And I also put content as well into my MA consultancy page. So my Welsh Biz news page is more about Welsh businesses. My UK MA consultancy business is more about communicating UK and global messages. But I love helping people, so I love helping put their content and their messages in front of new audiences and my audiences. One, because it helps them. Two, it helps me. It's win-win all the way around. So anything that you've got, like for example the launch of your new courses and stuff, tag me in, or tag me in, and I'll share them to my audiences. I got a lot of entrepreneurs from all over the place following me and watching me, and so I don't see you can help people in some areas that I can help people in, and I can help people in different areas, and you can help people in different areas. But I don't see competitiveness and competition. I just see collaboration and sharing and helping everyone to grow. Like you said, there's plenty of people out there. There's plenty of different people with different messages and different voices and all sorts of things. And the more everyone can help each other, the better the world would be, in my opinion. So
absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Dan. Well, thanks very much for coming on the podcast and sharing lots of your knowledge and wisdom. And look forward to reading some more of it online and engaging with you in whatever ways we can.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mike. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. All the best. Bye-bye. Right. There's nothing else left for me to say other than have a great day. I know I will. And thanks very much for listening. Cheers. Bye-bye.